Good morning, everybody. We are i8South. My name is Delion Thompson. I was the project manager and also I did hardware.
My name is Courtney Rowland. I did logistics and I also worked on the hardware.
My name is Hazim Ajani. I'm the presentation coordinator. I work with the phone application.
I'm Tiangan. I'm working on the phone application, and I'm the web designer.
My name is Joel Rendon. I am the editor of the group, and I work on the firmware.
My name is Daniel White. I am the technical illustrator, and I also worked on the firmware. Let me begin today by singling somebody out. Dr. Hirsch, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did you wash your hands this morning?
Yes, I did.
Outstanding, outstanding. Let me ask everybody here a question now. In a given day, honestly, how often do you wash your hands? And is it enough? I ask this because at the turn of the 19th century, the US and Europe had a 20% infant mortality rate, and this was directly correlated to the fact that medical professionals were not washing their hands between patients, leading to infections being passed from mother and child. Even today, it is an issue through carelessness, forgetfulness, or just not caring. We can't fix not caring, but what we can fix is forgetfulness and carelessness. We have a simple solution to the problem. A phone application using the latest technology, beacon technology. And to describe beacon technology, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney.
Okay, so what actually is a beacon? A beacon is a device that transmits one-way Bluetooth data. So if you think about your cell phone and your headset that you may have, that's two-way Bluetooth communication. The phone talks to your headset talks back to your phone. These beacons do not do that. The beacon itself just sets and transmits, and the phone application that we developed just receives. So up until this point, all we could really find that was being used, these beacons were being used for, was in marketing ads. So let's say if a company bought a beacon and had a cell phone application. When a potential customer walked by, if your cell phone was running that app and it picked up that beacon transmission, it would push a notification. You then pull your phone out of your pocket, take a peek at it. Oh wow, okay, the store I just walked by has a sale. So that's all they have been used for up until this point. We're trying to move this into using it as medical technology. Even though it is one-way communication and it sounds like it would be easy because there's no back and forth talking, it's actually pretty complex. And to talk about some of the complexity of the Bluetooth system and the beacon, I'd like to bring Joel up.
Beacons primarily transmit packets that can be up to 31 bytes long and can be broken down into 5 different blocks of data, as you can see from the example above. The first block is a beacon prefix. It is predefined, and every single beacon that you come across from will contain the same prefix. What primarily differentiates one beacon from another can be found in the next 3 data blocks, which is the universally unique identifier, also known as the UUID, the major and the minor. The UUID is similar to a MAC address. It is used by the application to be able to determine whether it should regard or disregard the beacon that is transmitting to it. You can think about the major as being the location. So for example, this room would have its own unique major, and if we were to move to another room, that room will have a different major because it's a totally different location. The minor can be classified as the device. So if each one of you guys in here were a beacon, each one of you guys in here would contain the same major because you're all in this location. However, your minors would be different because every single one of you is different. In order to transmit these beacon packets, we took a regular Bluetooth device, a CC2541 chip, and we programmed it in order to transmit as a beacon. However, beacons traditionally work in the following manner. They wake up, they transmit for a certain amount of time, go to sleep for a certain amount of time, then wake up again, transmit, go back to sleep, and they continue this pattern throughout their lifespan. However, our goal was to be able to determine when a user has been involved in an event that should trigger one of these beacons to start advertising. In order to achieve our goal, we relied heavily on the use of sensors, one of them being a KXTJ9 accelerometer. As you guys may know, accelerometers work on 3 different planes, the X, Y, and Z plane. And the variables on each one of these planes will change when the accelerometer is in motion. We programmed our accelerometer to a certain threshold, so if that threshold is broken, the accelerometer should wake up our Bluetooth, our beacon, and so that it begins advertising. Once our beacon begins advertising, it would advertise for 30 seconds, go back to sleep, and wait for the accelerometer threshold to be crossed again. That covers 2 of the events on our test environment that you will see later on in our presentation. To talk about the 3rd event, the beacon inside the soap dispenser, here's DT.
Okay, before I talk about how the soap dispenser works, I have to list a few of the parts we're using. We're using a PIC 18 microcontroller, a motor driver, and we're using a beacon in conjunction with e-field sensor. Now, to tell you how the e-field sensor works, it's low power, so when you apply power to it, it creates its own e-field. And when it senses a disturbance, it which we represent by we using the hand as a disturbance. It sends the disturbance back to whatever we tell it to. So how the soap dispenser is working as a whole, okay, it's kind of sitting on low power, so half the stuff is off. Once the e-sensor, the sensor disturbance, it sends a signal back to the microcontroller, which the microcontroller sends a signal to the motor driver, letting it know to turn on the motor for a certain amount of time to dispense the soap. Once that's completed, the microcontroller sends a signal to the beacon, which sends out a signal to the application. And to talk more about the application, here's the signal.
So we developed an Android application that continuously scans for beacons. So whenever you're in a range of a beacon, you receive the beacon packet and you parse out the packet and you get the UUID and major and minor because we need it for solving a problem that I will talk about later. The most important aspect of the application is running in background. So you only have to launch your application once, and then you don't have to worry about it. It scans while it's in background. So whenever you cause an event, which is using something dirty, you get a push notification to remind you to wash your hands. Developing such an application, you come across 2 questions: how to differentiate between beacons, whether they're yours or what location they are in, and user recognition. The question of recognizing a beacon is we're just using the UID and major and minor as Joel discussed in details. As for the user recognition, we need to differentiate between users who are actually causing an event and people who are just happen to walk by when the event happens. To solve this problem, we're averaging the receiving signal strength over time. So whenever you cause an event, whenever a user is walking by when an event happens, they won't be in range long enough to be tagged. And to walk you through a demonstration, I'll bring Tia up.
At this point, I believe you guys all have a good understanding of our hardware, software, and the firmware. So this is our project named Smart Soap, and instead of take the demonstration at the real hospital, we doing it in our lab. And this is the diagram of our lab, and you can see in the top of this picture is the station 1, which is the beacon stay on the solid station, and the second one is obviously is the soap dispenser, and the third one in the bottom is the beacon stay on the door, which can tell you phone whether or not send the push notification to you or not. And now I will show you a video. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
In this video, we have 2 cases. And you can see here, Daniel, she's using the solid station, and you can see in the corner, there is a debugger window. And when he finished to solid his thing, he goes to wash his hand. And you can see here, the phone received the signal. And then he goes to walk through the door, and nothing happened because he did the right thing. In case 2, Daniel again, and he leaves the solid station and directly go through to the door, and you can see, you can hear something here. And here is our push notification. Tells Daniel to go back to wash his hands. Okay, to tell more about our timeline, I will bring DT back.
Okay, now I know this is really, really busy, but I'm proud of it. Now I want to show the world what me and my group did. It took, in 10.5 weeks, it took me and my group, we had to complete 70 tasks in order to get this social space to work. Okay, now a few of the milestones I want to talk about. The first 2 milestones represent milestones we gave a time limit to. We actually met that time limit. The first one is really important to us because without the disassembly of the circuit, we wouldn't have been able to make our own circuit. We wouldn't have been able to use the e-field that we wanted to. The second one, it was a project requirement. Now the next 2 milestones were milestones we didn't quite complete in time, but they were very important as discussed by my teammates before. Now to talk about the budget, I'm gonna bring the court.
All right, so this is our budget that we had. We had $1,000 that was graciously given to us by the West Health Institute. You can see a majority of the money was spent on the TI sensor tag, the 2540 and 2541. That's the chips that we modified and turned into beacon systems. Another large amount was used on the e-field sensor that we had to buy a development kit so we could learn how that worked and then actually fold that design into our design. And our third big purchase was the Motorola Moto X cell phone that we developed our software application on. We actually finished about 29% under budget from what they gave us, which I think is pretty good. We would like to thank all of you for showing up here today. We would like to thank West Health Institute for all of our weekly meetings and all the help that you gave us during the semester. We'd also like to thank John Kennedy and Mark and SDSU for providing us all the help we needed and the use of the lab and test equipment. And we would like to open the floor to questions, please.